Hello, my name is Bryan Dean. I'm a reporter with the Oklahoman and newsok.com, and I'm here today with Charles Thompson, the former OU quarterback who recently won an appeal after being convicted of public intoxication by a city court, and he appealed to the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals, and they unanimously overturned the verdict. And Charles, I just wanted to go through this a little bit because you fought this thing now for over a year. Most people, this was a $69 fine.
Right.
You know, it's not like they were throwing you in jail or
That's
anything,
right.
but you felt it. You know, you wanted to go ahead and challenge this all the way up to the Court of Criminal Appeals, which people very rarely do that with this kind of a case. So let me start out. Let's go through what happened here. This stems from an incident that was early morning of November 18th, 2006. Take us back, and can you tell me what happened?
Well, it really can go back the night before, the Friday night. It was the whole parameter of the meeting there, or being at the Marriott Residence Inn on that evening, was to bring a group of kids there that I coach and kind of give them, Brian, if you may, a feel of how we do it in the bigs, whether it's college or pros, where we all go to a hotel, review film, eat, get prepared for our championship game or a game the next day.
And this was a Little League football game.
Little League football game that we televise. We have televised the Great Oklahoma City Youth Football Championship, which is something that we've brought to Oklahoma City, and Cox televised it, which we're glad we've been able to play the championship. So it was a big deal for the kids. I mean, it was like their national championship or their Super Bowl.
Right.
And so I was trying to get them to understand the parameters of what it takes to be successful and what pro and college athletes do before their big games.
So you guys, you had the kids there, you're watching film, doing all that, and then sometime in the evening the kids leave, and you had a group of folks, parents, coaches, who stayed behind to make banners for all the teams and get everybody ready, right?
Yeah, and the ironic part about the whole incident is, I mean, you know, there's obviously been times where people's been caught in some compromising incidents and things. Certainly, I've had my incidents in the past. The really unique thing about this incident was that you know, I was actually leaving the premises at the time to go home to get some rest because I had an early morning getting ready for the television for Cox. I helped put on the event, and so I have to be there at 5 in the morning to get with the camera and the Cox, get everything set up going as well. So the ironic part about the whole event was that you know, here I was playing sort of the mediator,
right,
and trying to keep the crowd calm because I want to try to get a handle on the situation. And then out of the midst of all that, I of course ultimately ended up being arrested that evening.
So now, about 1 o'clock in the morning, the police come in, and apparently there had been a noise complaint. I guess it was disputed exactly where the noise was coming from, but there had been a noise complaint. They come to you and say, you guys need to pack up and leave, and these folks were still trying to work and get the signs done and everything, and so you said, well, we're not leaving, we've done nothing wrong. And I guess words were exchanged, and at some point, now, did they ask you if you'd been drinking?
Well, I think there are a few misconceptions I think that people misunderstand about this incident. Number one, people will assume that, well, if they call the police, that they must have gave them ample warnings. That wasn't the case in this situation. And the second is that when people would tab it as arguing with the police, I wasn't arguing with the police. I was basically standing up with my rights. All I asked was a simple question. You know, I feel like if I'm going to walk away from $250 of a hotel room expense, someone needs to give me a better definition of what we did wrong, right, and validate that reason why we need to leave. And so I think in doing that, I think I did, you know, maybe upset the police officer by what I thought standing up for my rights and for the rights of the other people in the room. So
the police claimed you were belligerent. At some point, I guess they were talking to you about this, and you stepped outside of the front door of the hotel room, and at that point they claimed you were in public and you were intoxicated, and they said they smelled alcohol in your breath and arrested you. So that was November 18th. That goes to trial then January 29th of 07. Mm-hmm. And I was at the trial, and I remember that there were two police officers who were there at the event who testified. Both of them said that they smelled alcohol on your breath, but you weren't wobbling or anything. And you had five witnesses who testified, right, who said there was no alcohol, not just that you hadn't been drinking, but there was no alcohol in the hotel room, right, but you'd been there all night and had not been drinking.
Right.
So were you surprised then the judge finds in favor of the state and convicts you? Were you surprised by that?
I was not surprised because I understand being in the position I've been in and being under scrutiny, I understand how the system works. And so it didn't really surprise me. What really surprised me more was the fact of the matter that even the police officer, if you remember in the trial, Brian, stated that one of the reasons why they thought that I was drunk was because my eyes was red, which they stated in court, that my eyes were just as red in court as it was at night, and also said my speech was the same in court as it was at night. But those were the two factors that they used to determine their decision based on me being drunk. And so I just thought initially, when of course they admitted that in court, which surprised that they did admit that, that the judge would automatically, surprisingly to me, dismiss it. And so it wasn't a shock that he didn't dismiss it. We kind of already knew that we would have to appeal it because of the way the system works, and to attempt to vindicate my name. And of course, yesterday that was done.
So why appeal? You get a $69 fine. It's not like you're not going to be going to prison, not getting any kind of parole or any kind of anything like that. This is just a matter of a small fine. Why did you decide you wanted to go ahead and appeal this?
Well, sort of the same reason why we wanted to go ahead and try it. As you know, normally in the case of a city trial like this, you go and pay a $69 fine, you're on your way. It's a small misdemeanor, so to speak. It was all about principle. I think that certainly when you feel like someone's trying to discredit who you are and who you've become and what you've established. I do a lot of work in the community with kids, and I thought throughout the exposure and the behavior and the things that transpired with me being arrested, on what I consider to be and what was proven to be wrongfully so, that I need to do so not only just for me, but for everything that I stand for, everything that I've done here in the community. And so I felt that I needed to stand up and do that. And that's the reason why I was adamant about it from the very beginning. And I was prepared to do what all it took to clear my name.
Of course, people remember you had problems when you were at OU and got arrested on some drug charges. And since then, you've owned up to that. You've tried to atone for it. I know you speak to kids. You've tried to rebuild your name. Is that really why you felt, especially because the message you have to kids here, where you tell kids not to get involved in this kind of behavior and you work so much with kids, was that one of the reasons you felt like preserving that message was worth this fight?
Well, I just felt that it was unjustly handled and unjustly done. And I think anyone, regardless of who they are, whether they're someone who is the citizen on the corner, or whether they're the most famous person in the community, it doesn't matter. If you feel like you've been unjustly treated, it's your right to stand up to do that. And so I just was adamant about it, Brian. I just felt that, for who I am, if I'm going to make a mistake and be crucified for it, certainly let it be something that I truly done and that I'm guilty of. And this was a situation, unlike times in the past, and I will admit I'm not a perfect person, but this was certainly a situation that I felt that I was in the right. And I'm just relieved. I've been happy that the system finally spoke up and someone finally said that, Charles Thompson, you're absolutely right. This was an unjust situation, and they overturned it.
So can you tell me a little bit about what this has cost you? You do work with children. You're out there in the community. You do a lot of high-profile work. Have people looked at you differently? Have you had people back away from you maybe because of this? Oh,
I'm sure there have been. I mean, obviously, you never really know the magnitude of what something like this does to your reputation. I do know that there's been some hits usually throughout the year, especially during the bowl season, with our PR company that handles me, Full Armor. That I get a lot of requests during certainly the football season to go speak. Was drastically down this year, and obviously it had a lot to do with, I think, some of the negative publicity. So I really don't know in terms of what it really cost me. And I'll never really be able to put an actual dollar figure on that. But for me, it was really more about yesterday, about feeling vindicated and feeling the sense of happiness that, you stood up for something that you thought was done wrongly for you, and the system agreed with you.
Now tell me, you did tell me that you found out about this yesterday. What was your first feeling? I mean, we had talked about this has been over a year now since that original city trial, and I mean, to have it go that long and then find out, all that work and all that trouble was worth it. I mean, what was it like when you found out?
It was just a feeling of happiness. I mean, it was a feeling of rejoice within myself. I mean, I've heard a lot of things. I hear a lot of things. People said, I've even read some of the comments on your website about this. I know that there will always be people that will never give me a fair chance. I'll never have a true light in their minds of being a favorable person that they think of. But I've done positive things here, and my merit speaks in the things that I've done. But I was just excited, Brian, really, to be honest with you, just to be able to say that I knew that I was right, and the system just pretty much said to me and everyone else that hey, you shouldn't rush to judgment on anyone just because someone did something in the past. Almost 20 years ago. Now I was I think 19 years old. doesn't mean as a man today that I'm that same person. And I think a lot of people misconstrued exactly who I am, and those people that have gotten to know me over the years understand exactly what Charles Thompson stands for. And yesterday, for them and myself, we were able to say, there you have it.
Well, thank you, Charles, for being here. I think you're probably a hero for a lot of folks who've either gotten a traffic ticket they didn't think they deserve, or been accused of a crime they didn't think they committed, or whatever. Well,
Bryan, there's a lot of misconception. I hear a lot of people say, well, surely they had to breathalyze him, they had to prove he was drunk, for him to take him to jail, and that's not the case, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. What happened to me could happen to anyone, and it doesn't matter who you are, where you are. If a person feels like that have the authority. And I hear a lot of people making accusations, whether it's true or not true, whether it happened or not. Let it happen to them or someone they know, they'll begin to understand
right.
that. And so I was just glad that I could stand up and represent myself, and hopefully I was yesterday was a kudos for all those who've been falsely accused and convicted as well.
All right, well, Charles, thank you very much for being here. We do appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.